Joining us now, America's Rabbi, Rabbi Yakaav Menken, the Coalition for Jewish Values. Rabbi, I'm at the Virginia General Assembly. I'm with Republican State Senator Amanda Chase. Thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate it, Rabbi. You're a little upset with some things going on. Can you give us an update?
Well, there's a lot to be upset about right now in America, isn't there? But
Yes.
Obviously, in particular, the machete-wielding attack in New York, and people not realizing that hateful rhetoric brings about hateful violence. There's been this incredible increase in violence, and while Bill de Blasio is trying to explain to us how the president's use of coarse language on Twitter is what's making everybody so excited. It's ridiculous, it's crazy, and he's not recognizing that what's the real problem is that people now recognize that you can be an anti-Semite and be on important committees in Congress. It's not like what Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar are spouting is new or different. It's not, and our entire community recognizes it.
So let's get Amanda Chase here, the Senator Chase, to weigh in. Amanda, this rash of anti-Semitism going on, and nobody really paying attention to it, right? Not getting reported. We got anti-Semites in Congress now sitting on committees. You're here in Virginia. Are you seeing any of this, and what do you make of it, Senator?
Well, first of all, the left likes to talk about tolerance, tolerance of ideas, and honestly, I think they're tolerant of any ideas that they have forward. But if you have a differing idea or opinion, then you're considered intolerant. You're labeled extremist, and my frustration has been, as a outwardly Christian person, I get persecuted as well for my Christian beliefs, and that's where with the Jewish faith, we can so relate on these issues. With the attack in Texas on one of our congregations as well. So I think there are those out there that have hate in their heart, and they're not tolerant to people of faith who desire to worship. You see it in the Jewish community. You see it in the Christian community. And, I have zero tolerance. We should allow people to worship in the way that they so choose to do so in a peaceful way and not feel threatened. Worship should be a place where you go and feel safe. And, that's not the case anymore. And I have zero tolerance for people who don't tolerate people of different faiths.
So, Rabbi, weigh in here. Amanda's saying that it's a general intolerance. But my point is, when you get acts of anti-Semitism, in the media, Rabbi, they're just not covered. Why is that?
Well, I first would want to dovetail on what the senator said, that it's absolutely true that certain ideas are no longer acceptable. The left is not about ideological diversity. They are about censoring and state control of views. I pointed out on Twitter there was it happened in Israel that one of the government ministers who is religious said that he and his wife have a natural union. And he said, we have a natural union, a natural family, and our children have natural unions, and we're not going to be, we shouldn't be ashamed about that. Well, guess what? They were they were called names and bigots and homophobic and not accepting of others, etc., etc. When all they simply said was something on which the Bible and biology are completely in accordance. And I simply defended him, and I was immediately called a bigot, and now I'm excluding LGBT. It's simply not the case. I wasn't excluding anybody. I was simply saying how we feel. If you have certain views, you get excluded for them. And I'll finish that off by saying I got several private supportive comments from people who said to me that if they would actually simply agree with what I said, even though their fields were like law or something completely unrelated to this issue, they would suffer professional consequences, and their clients would suffer professional consequences. So, talk about state suppression of religion. It's coming.
So you take away the guns, then you take away your religious freedom, then you go into political correctness. Where's it end, Amanda Chase?
Well, I wish I could say it's going to end this coming session, but it's not. It's just getting started. People are waking up, and, I went door to door whenever I was running for re-election this past year and talking to a number of people who were concerned about the direction that our state is going. And it's interesting, the number of votes that I won by this time was the sum of the votes that both myself and my opponent got last time 4 years ago.
That's unbelievable.
So people are waking up. I think this anti-two-way, I kept telling people, this election this November is about prosperity versus socialism. And some people, even in the Republican Party, said, oh, that's too extreme. That sounds crazy. Well, told you so. I mean, I hate to say that, but the crazy is becoming reality. And so we don't have the votes. I mean, I'm just going to be honest with people. We don't have the votes. For the first time in 27 years, the GOP has no control in the Commonwealth other than my big mouth and the mouth of others exposing what they're doing. If you go to my Senator Amanda Chase page and like it, I do a daily video giving everyone what's just happened. Now that I'm not confined to a Senate committee, I can follow. And I have been doing this, going to different committees to find the hotly contested races and videoing it. Now, the Transparency Caucus allows anyone to go to virginiageneralassembly.gov and view the streaming of each of these committee meetings online. That's one of the accomplishments of the Transparency Caucus. And again, that's virginiageneralassembly.gov. Click on the streaming and watch these committee meetings in action. We have to expose what the left is doing.
You can actually say then that your caucus leader kicking you out of the committees because you didn't do pay to play with him has actually backfired because now you're more vocal than ever. Let's get back to Rabbi Menken, Yakaav Menken, the director of the Coalition of Jewish Values. In a statement you guys made, Rabbi, a little bit earlier last week, you really blasted AOC, and you were bringing in just some references about some of these hateful attacks, and your column in the Daily Corner was "Stop Hateful Attacks on Jews, Oppose the Ideology Behind Them." You want to clarify that, Rabbi?
It was actually the Daily Wire, and I'm very grateful to them for giving me a very frequent platform at this point. But the idea is that the hateful attacks definitely have a common ideology. This idea is, what perhaps distinguishes attacks on Jews from other groups is that this idea that the Jews are some sort of united cabal, protocols of the elders of Zion, a secret council that feels themselves superior to everybody else and wants to act to the detriment of everybody else, take advantage of them, be parasites, steal, deceive, fraud, etc. Though, if somebody is preaching that idea has been around for about 3,300 years. So people have to recognize that's what anti-Semitism looks like. It's kind of distinguishable from other forms of xenophobia and racism. People say that the black man robs the bank, the Jew controls the bank. The Puerto Ricans are shiftless. The Jews are industrious. However it is, it's always about the Jews are distinguishable by, wanting to take over and wanting to draw out everything and steal everything from us. And you find this, on the right and you find it on the left, and the question is, how do you respond? If you reject people and strip them of their privileges, that's one reaction. If you place them on a prominent committee where they can affect the relationship between the U.S. and Israel, the world's only Jewish majority country, that's another reaction.
Unbelievable. I want to read one line out of your column. You said the hate will not be resolved by marching alongside AOC, who, by her own admission, knows nothing about the Middle East, except that the, quote, Jews are stealing land in Palestine and being unfair to others. So that's basically what you said. And now she's on a committee making decisions about this stuff, and she knows nothing about it. She's obviously biased. So how does that make sense?
Well, that's where it all lies. I mean, she admits she knows nothing. By the way, I mean, how did she get a degree in international relations and say that she knows nothing about the Middle East? She's not the expert in global politics. All she knows is that there's this land called Palestine. Palestine's map is the map of Israel. Until 1939, the Palestinians, quote unquote, until 1948, the Palestinians were Jews. Prior to 1964, the Arabs absolutely refused to call themselves Palestinian. They took on a name to claim that the Jews are stealing the whole country. Oh, there we go, right back to Jewish theft. And we are, by the way, talking about the ancestral homeland of the Jews. Why do you think they say Jesus was a Palestinian? If that's not bigotry, what is?
Rabbi, great column in the Daily Wire. Go to dailywire.com. I want to thank Rabbi Yakaav Menken, the executive director of the Coalition for Jewish Values, for being with us. Senator Amanda Chase's office. Rabbi, thank you for your time and your insight. Thank you so much.
And thank you, and glad to meet the senator.